What's up, Pop Culture Universe? We are back with another episode review of What If. This is episode 3 with my girl Soul. My name is Bogz, and with my girl Soul today to break down What If episode 3. How you doing today, Soul?
Doing good. Watched this episode a few hours ago. Enjoyed it a lot. Can't wait to break it down.
Yeah, let's do it. So, our episode reviews for What If, they're not going to be scene by scene, just going to give overall thoughts, key points of the episode, what we like, what we didn't like, and give it an overall ranking. So, first of all, I'm going to say What If this episode 3 was obviously not based on a specific plot of a movie like the previous 2 episodes were. So, that was kind of a nice change of pace. This was like almost a murder mystery type episode, so a different genre. They've done or touched on in the MCU in particular, where we see our heroes, the Avengers, basically all killed off. It was kind of fun to see and lots of intrigue about that. So yeah, we'll get into the episode review, but overall thoughts on the summary of the episode. So.
Yeah, this, like you said, this is not based on a movie. It's based off of Fury's Big Week, which I believe that was Iron Man 2, the first Thor movie, and then the stuff with the Hulk. But so Fury's Big Week, we got to see all the ramifications of what if this team that Fury has that wonderful speech about that we hear in in Iron Man 2 and later in Avengers about getting the Avengers together. What if someone was going after them and destroys them before they ever become a team? So that was very interesting. It was interesting to see Loki too, him coming back, coming to defend his brother. That was interesting. So very much a lot of like little things to talk about, and some characters that I didn't expect to see that we saw.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, it was from kind of the first few scenes, we see that someone is basically killing off Fury's recruits, the Avengers, basically, or his plan for the Avengers initiative, and taking them out one by one. And yeah, before they could reach their basically potential of becoming the Avengers or teaming up, like just on their crescendos, they get kind of killed off. So, and it seems like throughout each killing of each character, it's like his own agents. They're kind of framed by obviously the murderer, but it seems to be Romanoff is in it, Black Widow or in on it, or Hawkeye. So Fury's own agents are in on the plot, to kill these, and it is shocking to see some of these die. Like Thor, obviously Iron Man, and the Hulk, and the way they do it as well. So surprisingly grim. Some of them were, particularly the Hulk being blown up and stuff. So
yeah, definitely the darkest episode.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, what were your reactions to seeing these deaths, and and seeing obviously potentially Black Widow and Hawkeye being the culprits, or framed to be the culprits?
The one that was really like, oh, this is where we're going with this episode was the Hulk's death, because he kind of just blew up. Yeah. And the Hulk, as we know, he was like, oh, I've tried to commit suicide and I can't. Goes, I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. And so all these thoughts of like the way Bruce Banner tried to kill himself and it couldn't work and he found out he couldn't die. The fact that there is a way to kill the Hulk. Maybe we'll see that in the future. Hopefully not. But whenever like, oh, contract's done, let's make a dramatic scene. This is the way we're going to off him. Just the brutality of just literally what you see later is that his heart exploded and then the rest of him exploded.
Definitely. And I have a thing about the voice acting in this. So I think it's a little hit and miss. I'm going to be honest. So I'll talk about the miss first, and I'll talk about the someone who's really good. I felt like the lady voicing Black Widow, it just didn't suit Natasha Romanoff, Scarlett Johansson. I thought she was a little too jokey in this as well. From what we've seen of her character, obviously she does have jokes in the MCU, but it was just it just felt like someone else doing the voice, and it just felt a little jarring for me, especially because she was involved a lot in the episode. I just didn't feel like it suited Black Widow's character, but someone who was excellent, I thought, was Samuel L. Jackson. So him as Fury are very consistent to what we see in the MCU, of course, and that helps build the stakes because him being always one step ahead, or his character being one step ahead, kind of thinking that's his skill really. That's his talent, being one step ahead of everybody, and then being on the back foot throughout the episode, and being kind of thrown in unpredictable situations and scenarios, and having to defend himself and come up with things on the spot. Him being Samuel L. Jackson, I thought that added more interest into his plot point and his kind of story. Also, with Phil Coulson, hearing him back as as himself, the guy actually playing it. So I thought that was cool. Again, his humor I didn't mind, because his felt like what we've seen before in like 90s Phil Coulson, like Captain Marvel, around there. He's jokey, making a lot of inappropriate jokes and things like that. So that's similar to what we've seen before. So for me, his felt fine, more in line with that character. But I don't know if you have any thoughts about the overall voice acting, or Samuel L. Jackson in particular.
When I first heard it, it was a little jarring, but I did I was like, oh, Scarlett is not doing this voice, so expect to not think, oh, this is top notch. This is going to be a different voice. I think being an anime watcher has prepared me for this, because sometimes, like, if you watch something in Japanese or you watch something in English, if you watch it in the other language, you're like, this voice is weird because it's not the voice that I'm used to. So I think in that sense, I was able to detach myself a little bit from her voice, because, very much at the beginning, I was like, this sounds weird. But I was able to detach and just be like, okay, focus in on the voices that like Samuel L. Jackson, like Loki, Tom Hiddleston there. That's, I believe it was him because it sounds just like him.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So those parts, I was like, okay, these are the people who came back.
Yeah, so like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, that was not Robert Downey Jr. No way. But he sounded great. I was like,
he does.
Cool. And then Black Widow, I was like, who is that? And it just like it just threw me off. It
was the most different, where like with Steve Rogers, I was like, okay, this is a different person, but it still sounds really good. Robert Downey Jr., like, he's not back. It sounds really good. Yeah, I would agree that the worst of the matches of those three of people not coming back is Natasha Romanoff.
I definitely agree. So, and then we kind of it's unveiled that the murderer is like a really unhinged Hank Pym. I thought he was great. I thought after the death of his daughter is just after Fury and his plan, take out the Avengers, and I just thought it was an interesting take, the MCU take, like, with the genre, like a serial killer almost plot and genre. I just thought that was almost like a new genre that they haven't touched before, and a whodunit kind of murder mystery story. And I thought it was an intense, and it was and a good genre to touch on, and something different moving forward. And I do hope they do that in the What If episodes, like cover new genres and new story themes, and because there's only so much that we can see swapping characters in a plot or in a film or in a story, like they did with the first two episodes. I really want them to go into these other genres and other new stories that we kind of don't know. I'm hoping they've just done it for the first couple of episodes to ease everyone in. But I really like this new, let's move the kind of, let's really see what if we see different genres, different type of stories. That's what I definitely want to see. So, and I also would have liked to see this as a two-parter. Like, I did feel like when they got to the Hank Pym stuff, it was a little bit rushed, because that's quite a big story to tell, all the Avengers getting killed, and then we kind of see what it is almost immediately. So I did feel like it was just a little bit rushed. That I would have been happy with this two-part, or if they extended the story out, because they tried to tell the big scope story, and it almost was tied up completely. So overall thoughts on the villain Hank Pym, and because I thought he looked great, he sounded great. I liked his suit. The way he was fighting, so all that was good. But overall thoughts on Hank Pym?
Yeah, the reveal was great, and just like the fact too of Loki and Samuel L. Jackson in that moment, when you saw all of the Nick Furies around him, and it's just like the fear in Hank Pym. There at the moment of like, this is a person that you absolutely hate, that you think is responsible for your daughter's death, and it's just like a bunch of them multiplied around you. So like, worst fear for him. So that moment there, just like completely unhinged, something that I wouldn't imagine to see in a show like this or in the MCU. Just have someone that unhinged, who we view as a good guy in the MCU, being like 100% the bad guy in this. So that was very, very interesting to see, and I like that part a lot. I do kind of agree that it was a little rushed at the end to like, oh, this is the reveal. But I think they were more like, let's focus on the Avengers dying. And I think because that has more ramifications for the future than finding out who actually did it.
Yeah, and it was like you're saying, it was kind of cool to see Fury with Loki, with Hank Pym, all like going against each other.
Yeah.
You'd never thought these three would be, you know, kind
Right.
of speaking to each other, fighting each other. Like it was kind of weird to see in a good way. So, and just to end the episode, we see, you know, Fury with the replacement Avengers at the end, where he says, "Welcome back, Captain." As he kind of wipes away the snow, you know, in reference to Captain Carter, and then we see to his right or his left, whichever, that we see Captain Marvel there. You know, where's the fight and all that. So, so we can kind of assume, I believe that from there's like no one-off character things in this thing. So we can see, you know, they're tying up episode 1 now. Obviously, we don't know the scale of how everyone will be involved and where they're going exactly story-wise, but at this point. But it was good to see that, okay, we're bringing things back. So don't worry, there's no one-off things here. Everyone's, you know, hopefully will tie up into each other and we'll see where the story's going. And the one thing, probably the best thing about this episode, even though we're just sort of things, just in the background, like a matte painting of just a watcher in just the backgrounds of the scenes. It happened like 3 or 4 times. And I just thought, oh man, it just makes you wonder, like he's just there watching and not saying anything. And well, apart from the narration, of course, but it was just cool to see, like in every scene, they managed to fit his face and his eyes and just the shadowy figure looking over everything, just waiting to get involved or to kind of be our guide through it. So I love that. I just kind of want him to step into the scene almost and get involved. So I do love that. But what are your thoughts on the ending of the episode with the replacement Avengers?
Yeah, I don't think it's Captain Carter. I think that was still Steve Rogers, Captain America in the ice. But I like that he said, like, when he was just like, welcome, Captain, like it was a double entendre. It was both for Captain America and for Captain Marvel there. And I think we are getting Captain for either later this season or in season 2, that some of these characters and storylines are going to come back. But I don't think this one relates to the first episode because he came back through that portal instead of being in the ice.
Sure, we'll see. And then so overall summary of the episode, I did think it was the kind of boldest and bravest episode yet in terms of the scope and scale, because, you know, obviously, like we said, the first 2 episodes are pretty much, you know, a different take on a movie we've already seen or a story we've already seen.
With this person.
Yeah, pretty much. So this was a new take on that. It was compelling at times. I thought it would have been a little bit better if they extended it. I thought if there was a part 2 to this, you know, drawn out this awesome story of taking out the Avengers. Something that did bother me, like I said, inconsistent voice acting in it. Like I said, it does throw me off. One character who isn't played by the original person in the movies is really good, and then another one is just really like jarring. So that's what I mean. If they're going to tell this big scope story and, you know, tell these new stories with these different genres and daring stories, just like the voice acting is just in the back of my mind, like, oh, they're going to get these characters good. So that is important, obviously, in the believability of this being, you know, canon and transitioning into, you know, into maybe the movies or whoever. But yeah, I just that was a little off-putting, but overall, I did think it was, you know, it was good. It was daring. I'll probably give it a 7. 7, yeah. So it was, like I said, really big scope, bravest episode, boldest episode, and all that. I really want them to push the genres and give us kind of new stories that we've not seen before, week to week. But how about you? So overall summary of the episode, what were the kind of best things that you liked, or some things you didn't like?
These what if series, I never thought that we would get to if the Avengers are dead, because we hold them so dear to us that we're killing them off in an episode that I think, like, boldest choice to do. And the fact to come out of this episode still really enjoying it, even though it's like Thor's dead, and Natasha Romanoff and Tony's dead, because that's sad. It was just like, oh, like, oh no, like our favorites are no longer with us. I really want to see the story, this timeline play out. Okay, now that we don't have our main rock, what is with Captain America and Marvel, and who else into this Avengers now. That's our part to get it later. So that's really exciting about what's the future of this certain timeline. I hope we see it. I think I'll give it a 7.5 because there's definitely parts in here that I really, really enjoyed. Reveal, I very much enjoyed just the fact that you have Nick, Loki, and him, and like the fact that Hank Pym is a good guy in the MCU is so evil in this episode.
Yeah, he was really good. He looked good, sounded good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely got it right with him. But that's it, everybody. That's our episode review. Check us next week for episode 4. What are your thoughts on our breakdown and your thoughts on the episode? Any predictions, thoughts, theories moving forward? Please drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and we'll check you next week for our episode review of What If.